Good morning, friends. It's Ranganathan again from AVKOTS, Doso Kaitamanat Center. Again, to commemorate the 70th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations between Japan and India, we've been having a series of presenting Japan through the stamps called 50 Themes in 50 Weeks. It's a philatelic thing because we have the stamps, some details about the stamps, and more details about Japan itself, because people may want to know more about Japan, may want to know somebody may want to go to Japan, anything. So we are trying to explain through the stamps. We are taking you into Japan and the history of Japan, culture of Japan, and what is happening today and all that. Okay, thank you. Let's go. Now, this time we will be presenting the Showa Series, Showa 1937 to 1946 stamps. Showa, Emperor Showa's period, these stamps came in, they were released. So this series was called as Showa Series. And of course, there was also later a new Showa Series was also there. These are all the stamps between 1937 to 1946. The stamps that were released, the background and about the stamps, the explanations will be our talk today. Now, if you see these beautiful, colorful stamps, they are very different from what you have seen the earlier stamps that we have presented last 2 weeks. First and foremost, the change has happened into picture designs. The design of the Tazawa stamps, they were all only geometrical figures drawn well, but there's no pictures. The design of Tazawa stamps had been used since 1913, and they lost appeal with changing times. There were suggestions that stamp with new design should be issued. New stamps featuring picture designs, in keeping with popular taste of that time, were issued. These stamps were issued for 3 years until 1940. And then the denominations ranged from 5 rin, 1/10 of a cent, and almost went up to 10 yen. Okay, these are the stamps in one overall view of these stamps. Then we'll go into the stamps now. Now, the first stamp is called what you call as Goshuin Sen. Goshuin Sen was a large-sized foreign trader authorized by shogunate. So it was active in trade with Southeast Asia from Momoyama period, 1575 to 1600, to the early period of Yado period, 1615 to 1866. By means of this Goshuin Sen, the wealthy merchants of Kyoto, Sakai, and Nagasaki set about doing foreign trade. At the beginning, the ship was built after Chinese fashion, and it was about 30 meters long. But later, European shipbuilding technique was adopted, and the body became larger. The first ship, what you call as Goshuin Sen, is what you see here. This stamp was released in 1937 on November 1st. It's of size 21 by 26 millimeter. It's violet in color. And in order to prevent any malpractice, there were also watermarks at the back, wavy lines, covered type. And then this is coming under the standard or the definitive stamp, and the comb 13 by 13.5, printed by typography, and it's half a Japanese sen. That is the background about this stamp. Now, the second stamp that you see in the pictorial thing is Harvesting and Harmony is the name. It's a 1937 issued stamp in the month of December 11, 21 by 16, orange brown, again wavy lines as a watermark, definitive typography, and one Japanese sen. In Japan, rice is a symbol of providence and creation, and of blessing and joy, giving them an important lesson of living in harmony. Rice appears many times in the Japanese classic mythologies, Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki, which are 1712 AD and 1720 AD. The sun goddess Amaterasu Omikami is known as the mother of grain soul and is credited with inventing the cultivation of rice and wheat. The indigenous name for Japan written in Nihon Shoki is Toyo Ashihara no Mizuo no Kuni, which translates as to the land where abundant rice shoots ripen beautifully. The name, no doubt, was given from a recognition of the environment as being a good for rice cultivation. So that is Japan. Then one more thing about rice, 18 steps and 18 gods. The Japanese are saying there are 88 gods, 88 steps and 88 gods. The Japanese say that there are 88 gods in a grain of rice and there are 88 steps in producing rice. This is because the Chinese character for rice can be broken down into 88. So that's why they're 88 by 88. Japanese children and even sometimes adults are chided by their elders for not picking up each grain of rice from their bowls to avoid offending the 88 deities. The Japanese Labor Thanksgiving Day on November 23rd was originally called as Ninama no Matsuri or Shijosai, a harvest ritual which the emperor would offer rice and sake produced that year to thank the deities for a prosperous year and pray for a fruitful following year. Now, you would have seen this gentleman earlier also. Is General Nogi Marasuke. It's a coil stamp. If you see the difference, the stamp doesn't have perforations on the sides. It is like a cellophane tape. This comes in a roll. Okay. In between the stamps only there is perforation. So you can tear off stamps anywhere. And because there's only one strip of stamps, they don't have perforation on the sides. It is not being attached to another stamp. Coil stamp, two sides of imperforate, rotary printing, new small die, image size 18.5 by 22 mm. A coil stamp is a type of postage stamp sold in strips on one stamp side, wide. The name derives from the usual handling of long strips, which is a coil to them into rolls in a manner reminiscent of the adhesive tape rolls. Large percentage of modern stamps are sold in coil form because they are more amenable to mechanized handling in large quantities than either sheet stamps or booklet stamps. These type of postage stamps were originally created for use in vending and automated stamps affixing machines. They came in long rolled up strips with straight edges on two opposite sides and perforated edges on the other two sides between the stamps. When the coil stamps first appeared for use in vending and stamp affixing machines, many collectors did not consider them to be separate issues and ignored them. As a result, they are very rare today. Some are quite rare today. You don't get them that easily nowadays, the coil stamps of olden days. Now, Fleet Admiral Togo, vending machine companies began to experiment with the automated dispensing of stamps. So I've shown you some vending machine stamps, coil stamps down below. Early efforts to break sheets into strips manually did not work well, since they were prone to tearing and jamming as soon as the companies began to request imperforate sheets from the post office, cutting those into strips and punching holes of various shapes between each stamps. The variety of these private coil is known, and it's also some quite rare stamps now. This was released in 1938, January 25th. Again, the stamp size doesn't vary, 21 by 26, and emerald green color, baby lines, and typography printing, and 4 Japanese yen is the value of this stamp. Now, United States, UNESCO, okay, picked up quite a few Japanese shrines and temples for giving them the UNESCO award as a World Heritage Site. The shrines and temples are Nikko. Nikko is slightly north of Tokyo, have been recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The Toshugu Shrine, which dates from the 17th century and is a monument to the mausoleum of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the founder of the shogunate that ruled Japan for 250 years. It's his dynasty that ruled for 250 years before Commodore Perry came and asked them to hand over. And then once Commodore Perry came, then the major restoration took place. Nikko Toshigu is famous for the ornate carving, beautiful carving, wooden carvings that splendidly decorates the entire building, both inside and outside, and from end to end. In particular, the imposing Yomeimon Tower Gateway is famous for its lavish decorations, including over 300 dazzling carvings of mythical beasts such as dragons, giraffes, lions, Chinese sages, and even beautiful peacock and sleeping cat. Many animals are also there, and that is the Yome Gate or the entrance gate that's there here. Then Kasuga Grand Shrine in Nara. Again, Kasuga Taisha is Nara's most celebrated shrine. It was established at the same time as capital and dedicated to the deity responsible for the protection of the city. Kasuga Taisha was also a tutelary shrine of Fujiwara, Japan's most powerful family clan during most of the Nara and Heian periods. Like the Issei shrines, Kasuga Taisha has been periodically rebuilt every 20 years for many centuries. In case of Kasuga Taisha, however, the custom was discontinued at the end of Edo period. Now this is a stamp, 1938 again, February 11, 21 by 36. Rest of the specifications are same as that. Only the color is changed. It's lake and the purple brown is the thing, and wavy lines, of course, the watermark is there. Then Suryaji Temple, again, this Suryaji Temple at in Igaruga, Nara Prefecture, is a temple of flourishing Dharma. It's a Buddhist temple. When we say temple, it is Buddhist. When we say shrine, it is Shinto. Buddhist temple that was once one of the powerful 7 great temples in Ikaruga, Nara Prefecture, Japan. Its full name is Horyo Gakumonji, or Learning Temple of the Flourishing Law, the complex serving as both a seminary and monastery. The temple was founded by Prince Shotaku in 607, but according to Nihon Shoki, in 1670, all buildings were burned down by lightning. However, reconstructed at least 1,300 years ago, the Kondo, the main hall, is called as Kondo, is widely recognized as the world's oldest wooden building. That is a stamp that you see here. And again, 1938, October 11, 21 by 26 is the site. Rest of the things are the same like any other stamps that were released in the period of 1938. Then hydraulic power station. Now you can see the difference. The stamps are all becoming more and more pictorial as you have seen this thing. Hydroelectricity is the second most important renewable energy source after solar energy in Japan, with an installed capacity of 500 gigawatts as of 2019. According to the International Hydropower Association, Japan was world's 6th largest producer of hydroelectricity in 2020. Hydraulic plant generates electricity by means of a water turbine driven by the force of water flowing down from a higher elevation. And this stamp was released in 1939. You can see the penstock that is bringing the water down the hill, because most of the hills get a lot of snow in the winter, and then they melt and then come down. And then it's a green, same wavy lines, and rest of the stamp specifications like the other stamps also here. Lake Taisho and Mount Takedake, Kaminokuchi, Japanese Alps, that is all in one stamp. You can see Taisho Pond, Taisho Ike, was formed in 1915 with an eruption of the nearby volcano Mount Yakedake dammed the Azusa River. The decayed trees in and around the pond add special ambience to the scene, as well as subtle reminder of the destruction wrought by volcanic activity. Even today, a few of the submerged trees can be seen in the pond. As water level of the lake drops due to the flow of debris from the mountainside, the lake is dredged of silt annually, and then dam is maintained artificially to generate hydropower. The view of the trees standing withered the pond in the morning haze at Mount Otodake and Mount Yakedake being reflected on the surface of the pond against very clear sky. Taisho Pond is one of the most popular scenic point of Kamikochi. Then we have this orange color stamp, 1939 June, January, June 1st, and 21 by 26, rest are the same. Japanese 6 yen is the stamp price. You can now see only 6 is there. The rest is sen, is maybe written in Japanese thing. This is Ilunnabi Iluanbi Lighthouse is a lighthouse located in Cape Iluanbi, a southernmost point of Taiwan, which separates Taiwan's South Bay from Banana Bay and Taiwan Strait, and South China Sea from Philippine Sea. As you know, Japan occupied Taiwan. That time, Japanese stamps were used in Taiwan. It was near Elun village in township of Henguchan and Pingtung County, Taiwan. A lighthouse is open to public all year around. The lighthouse is named after nearby Cape Iluanbi and as Karambi and Karambi from the Japanese pronunciation. So that's why it's called as Karambi Lighthouse in Formosa. Formosa was the earlier name of Taiwan. Iluanbi Lighthouse is also known as the light of East Asia because its light is the most intense of those in Taiwan. Then, stamps of occupied Burma. The Japanese military administrative authorities during occupation of Rangoon appointed Mr. Yano Shizuo as the Postmaster General of the Burma Postal Department. With a local rank as an army general, immediately after taking over the appointment of general, Yano took steps to issue unique stamp for the Burma Postal Department. His personal signature and seal in vermilion was used for stamps without the name of the country, face value, or adhesive. These were first sold on June 1st, 1942. The stamps were done in small shops in bazaars. Printing was done with a hand or a treadle machine and perforation chiefly with the needle machine of the hand type. Ink soon became scarce and the paper after a time most unobtainable. That is the stamp of occupied Burma by Yano Shizuo. The Postmaster General was the rank of a Director Major General. Okay, as a general. Now, Yano found shortage of printing supplies to print stamps in Burma, and therefore he obtained from Japanese postal authorities stamps of 10 face values, 1 to 30 cents. These are the stamps that I show you on the other side. These stamps are known as Showa Series. These are 2 girls harvesting and 1 face of General Nogi, the hydropower station, the Lake Kamikochi, the Diamond Mountains of Korea, deep green, the face of Admiral Togo, Meiji Shrine Tokyo, Yome Gate Nikko, Mount Fuji and Cherry Blossoms, the Tori of Miyajima Shrine, and these are the stamps which are modified. The stamp value has been changed, and with the surcharge they were sold in the thing. You can see the surcharge printed on each of the stamp in black. Yano had them surcharged with a new value in black or red ink for use in Burma and put it on sale on October 1942. The Showa Japanese post stamps used in Burma during their occupation period exist with surcharge with 3 variations, with original face value surcharged to Ana, It's Anna is our olden type, they call it Anna. And the second, the original face value surcharged to Anna and surcharged to cent. And third is the original face value surcharged directly to cent. These are three types they use with surcharge. Then we have the stamp in dark olive green, the Diamond Mountain or the Kumgang Mountain or a mountain range with a height of 1,638 meters high in Beirong Peak in Kwango, North Korea. At that time, Japan occupied the Korea. So there was only one Korea, North and South was the same. Later on, only the division came. One Korea and is occupied. It's about 50 kilometers from South Korean city, this thing. And then this mountain range, okay, called Sakosha, is the best mountain range in North Korea. The Koreans have perceived, okay, Kumagang-san as their muse, and since well before Middle Ages. The division of the Korean Peninsula in 1950 resulted in the South Korea people finding themselves unable to visit their beloved mountain for the better part of next 50 years onwards. Then we have the Meiji Shrine in Tokyo, Meiji Jingu. The shrine is completed and dedicated to Emperor Meiji and Emperor Shokin in 1920, 8 years after the passing of the emperor and 6 years after passing the empress. Emperor Meiji was the first emperor of the modern Japan. He was born in 1852 and ascended to the throne in 1867 at the peak of the Meiji Restoration, when Japan's feudal era came to an end and the emperor was restored to power. During the Meiji period, Japan modernized herself to join the world's major powers. By the time Emperor Meiji passed away in 1912. Now this stamp is again violet in color, 1939, August 11th, with the same type of, it's the same definitive, same size 21 by 26, and the watermark as shown here. Then we have the Nakajima B5N aeroplane. The Nakajima B5, allied reporting name of this particular plane was Kate, was the standard carrier-based torpedo bomber of the Imperial Japanese Navy, IJN, for much of the World War II. Although B5N was substantially faster and more capable of its allied counterparts, it was nearing obsolescence by 1941. Nevertheless, the B5N operated throughout the whole war due to the delayed development of its successor B6N. And the early part of Pacific War, formed by well-trained IJN aircrew and a pass of well-contained attack, the B5N achieved popular success in the Battle of Pearl Harbor, Coral Sea, Midway, and Santa Cruz Islands. This was released in 1939, December 1st, and this stamp is 22 by 22.5 millimeter, and then slate blue is the color. Again, it's got the watermarks as shown, printed by Reese's printing, not by typography, and the comb is 13 by 13 and a half. Then, of course, the famous floating torii of Ikushima Shrine in Miyajima. Ikushima Shrine is a Shinto shrine in the island of Ikushima, popularly known as Miyajima, which is by a ferry can be reached from Hiroshima. So you have got the ferry terminal from where you can reach Miyajima. The best known for the floating torii gate. Actually, it's not floating. It look as if it's floating because the high tide, low tide, the Setohashi Sea there. The shrine complex is listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Japanese government has designated several buildings in the complex as national treasures. It's most famous for this dramatic gate or torii on the outskirts of the shrine, the secret peaks of Mount Misen, and its ocean view. The torii, the temple complex, and the high tide look like floating in the water, but can be accessed by people walking on the sand after the water has receded during low tide. Now, the famous Kinkakuji, the Golden Pavilion in Japan, is a Zen temple in Kyoto, whose top two floors were completely covered with gold leaf, formerly known as Rokonji. The temple was the retirement villa of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, and according to his will, it became a Zen temple of the Rinzai sect after his death in 1408. Kinkakuji was the inspiration for the similarly named Kinkakuji Silver Pavilion by the Yoshimitsu's grandson Ashikaga Yoshimasa on the other side of the city a few decades later. Again, this is 1939 stamp, June 11. Other details are the same, typographic printed, and it is again going back to 21 by 26 millimeters. Then there is a famous world-renowned Kamakura Buddha, one huge statue that is in the open. Okay, Kotakian Temple in Kamakura. The statue commonly known as Kamakura Daibatsu, Great Buddha of Kamakura, a colossal copper image of Amida Buddha, the main image of Kotakian. You can, it's a hollow inside, it's not one casting. You can even go inside this. The Great Buddha, designated as a national treasure by the Japanese government, is some 11.3 meters tall and weigh around 121 tons. Though in size, it falls short of the Great Buddha of Todaiji Temple at Nara, which is 50 feet in height. An image of Rushna Butsu or Parochana Buddha essentially retains its original form. As such, it's invaluable example of Japanese historical Buddhist art. Mount Fuji and Sakura. Fujigoko is a renowned tourist area and that lies at the northern base of Mount Fuji and comprises of 5 distinct beautiful lakes: Kawaguchiko, Yamanakako, Motsuko, Saiko, and Sujiko. The area is designated as a perfect place for viewing Mount Fuji from a close distance. Those who dream of living in iconic Mount Fuji in spring should pay a visit to Fuji 5 Lakes area. It's beautiful. And 1940. Now, so far we have seen stamps of 1939. First time 1940 stamp has come. And then 21 by 26. It's a standard stamp. So therefore, as a standard stamp, it's 21 by 26 size. And the recess printing. And we have the watermark as shown in the back. And this is ultramarine is the color. Okay. Then Fujiwara no Kamatari, 1614, November 14, 1669, that is his period, was courtier and aristocrat during the Asuka period, 1538-1710, a statesman, founder of the Fujiwara clan, the most powerful aristocratic family in Japan during the Nara and Heian period. He, along with Mononobe clan, was supporter of Shinto and fought the introduction of Buddhism in Japan. The Soga clan, defenders of Buddhism in Asuka period, defeated Kamatari and Mononobe clan, and the Buddhists became the dominant religion of the imperial court. Kamatari, along with Prince Nakano Uye, later Emperor Tenji, 626 to 672, launched the Taika reform in 1645, which strengthened the central government, and just before his death, he received the surname Fujiwara and the rank of Taisho Khan from the Emperor Tenji, thus establishing the Fujiwara clan. Now, you can see the plum blossom design. Prunus mume is a East Asian and Southeast Asian tree species. This includes Chinese plum, Japanese plum, and Japanese apricot. The flower long loud, subject of the traditional painting and poetry in East Asia and Vietnam, is usually called as plum blossom. The distinct tree spices is related to both plum and apricot trees. In East Asian cuisine, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, and Vietnamese cuisine too. And the fruit of the tree is used in juices as a flavoring for the alcohol, as pickle and sauces. It's also used as a traditional medicine. Plum flowering in late winter and early spring is seasonal. It's a seasonal symbol to indicate winter is coming to an end, spring is coming up. This is also released in 1939, 21 by 26. Color is morcon, same wavy type of covered lines as a watermark, and recessed printing. It's a 10 yen stamp. You can see 10 yen. And look at the spelling of yen. It's not Y-N, it is E-N. It's a, of course, centrally you have the chrysanthemum in the stamp. Now, regular series, this is again, if you see, some stamps are more or less, some repetition may be there, 1 or 2 stamps, like Murasake stamp. Balance toward the Miyajima Tori is also there. And so this is called regular series, second Showa series. Second Showa series. First Showa is what we have seen so far. And then if you look at second Showa series, the Empire of Japan captured British stronghold of Singapore. The fighting lasting from 8 to 15 February 1942. Japanese military forces occupied it after defeating the combined British, Indian, Australian, Malayan, and Strait of Settlements garrison in the Battle of Singapore. The occupation has become a major turning point in the histories of several nations, including those of Japan, Britain, and Singapore. Singapore was renamed as Sayanto, meaning light of the South Island, and was also included as a part of the Great Asia Co-Prosperity. Then issues of 1937, the surcharge, if you see this, though released in 1942, it is actually a 1937. This stamp has been surcharged. You can see the surcharge printing, 2 plus 1 is a surcharge, and the stamp has been used for fall of Singapore. Then we have the General Nogi, was the last stamp that we have seen. Now we have the Admiral Togo, his stamp. The Japanese, again, 37 stamp was surcharged. The same stamp has been used. Japanese captured all of Malaysia during Malayan campaign in little more than 2 months. The garrison defending Singapore surrendered on 15 February 1942. Only a week after the invasion of the island commenced, then British Prime Minister Churchill called the fall of Singapore is the worst disaster and largest capitulation in British history. And in the 1937 year stamp of General Nogi Marasuke and Fleet Admiral Marcus Toge were overprinted for Singapore with a surcharge of 1 yen and 2 yens. Now, Karambi Lighthouse in Formosa. Formosa is again, I said, Taiwan, with a part of the Pacific War. Stamps of wartime look began to appear. This designs depicting the war were sought from general public. As the war continued, shortage of materials and labor developed. The quality of paper and glue declined. Most stamps are printed by reprinting method, which required little labor. The Tokinagawa printing shop was destroyed by fire in an air raid in April 1945, and once again printing of stamps was consigned to private operation. Now, during this period, extreme confusion. It was difficult to make all stamps uniform. There were differences in the paper, color, use. Some stamps did not have perforations or glue. The simple lithography printing method was reverted back during that period. And then if you see these two stamps, you can see the variation, how the stamps look. Okay, one is 1942, October 1st. Another one, 1942, February 17. You see the clarity, printing, everything. So that's the time this is there. One is supposed to be dark violet, other one is a dull violet. And then both are 21 by 26 millimeters, definitives, standard stamp, and recess printing. The top one is recess printing, the bottom one is typographic printing, and both are 40 Japanese sen stamps. Formosa and Japan. Taiwan is a large island in the southeast coast of China. The Dutch, Spanish, Chinese fought for control of it until 1683 when China prevailed. The island remained in a Chinese possession until the First Sino-Japanese War, 1894 to 1895. Japan won. Taiwan was among its territorial acquisitions. The island of Taiwan, together with Penghu Islands, became a dependency of Japan in 1895 with the Qing dynasty and Taiwan prefecture in the Treaty of Shimonosiki after a Japanese victory in the First Sino-Japanese War. Chinese of the island, who objected to it being transferred to Japan, proclaimed the Republic of Formosa and resisted the Japanese several months until conquered in August 1895. Taiwan, known as Formosa under the Japanese, would remain a Japanese possession until 1945. 1 minute. The short-lived Republic of Formosa resistance move was suppressed by Japanese troops and quickly defeated the capitulation of Taiwan, ending organized resistance to Japanese occupation and inaugurating 5 decades of Japanese rule over Taiwan. It is administrative capital of Taihoku, Taipei, led by Governor General of Taiwan. By 1945, supply lines between Japan and Formosa had been cut, and the Japanese stamps are no longer obtainable. As a set of 9 numeral values of imperial crust imperforate stamps was produced locally. Only the 3 sen, 5 sen, and 10 stamps were issued. Look at the stamps here. These are stamps that are there because Japanese stamps could not be sent to Taiwan. So Formosa had their own local issues. The Scott Standard Postage Catalog values the set of 3 at $89 in both unused, no gum issued condition or in use condition. The stamp set is of interest to both Japanese and Chinese collectors. The 3S Carmine, the red like pink Carmine stamp, is also interest to collectors of the world. Prices realized very widely from 80% to 140% of the catalog value. 3 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent. No gum, no perforation in these 3 stamps. Then Hyuga Monument and Mount Fuji. According to Japanese legend Nihon Shoki, following conquest of Kumaso people, Emperor Kaiko watched the sunrise over the ocean and said, the country faces straight towards the sunrise. From that time onwards, this province, known as Hyuga or Hinata, the country facing the sun, until the Meiji Restoration. Then it is renamed as Miyazaki. You must have seen that Miyazaki also had a torrential rain and also a typhoon very recently. The Hyuga monument originated by sailing of Emperor Jimmu's navy. Emperor Jimmu's navy sailed from the land of Mizuzu. The rising sun flag was that of the flag until still it is flown by the Japanese self-defense forces. That's why you can see it in the picture. Bottom one is not a stamp. It is actual picture of the monument and the navy flag flying around. Next to the shrine is a Tachiban shrine where Emperor Jimmu is said to have prayed for safe voyage when he set out the ship to Yamato to the west. Yamato is the Kansai. Kansai is Osaka area. And the rock on which he is said to have had sat is enshrined as the sacred body of Jimmu. So that's a monument that you see there. So this is issued on 1942, green in color, and then you have the 21 by 26 and watermark is there on this. And if you see the four sen stamp, the Hyuga monument stamp is one of the second Showa series 42-45 from Japan, and Showa dynasty Emperor Hirohito was among the longest in Japanese history in 1926 to 1989. The Hyuga monument was erected in 1940 to commemorate the 2600th anniversary of legendary date of founding of Japan. The Hyuga province, Miyazaki, after 1868, is the location of Mount Takachino, to which sun goddess grandson Ningi descended to initiate the founding of Japanese empire. Mythic Japan is the land of rising sun, and Hyuga means sun facing. Okay. Now, the designer sculpture Jisutsu Inago, the monument is 140 feet high, surmounting the base of rocks collected from all over Japan and Germany, from the Japanese living in South America. These contours of prehistoric shield are repeated 5 times in each side, and on the face 4 characters, Akoichu, 8 directions, 1 rule. The slogan is attributed to Jimmu, the great grandson of Ningi, the first emperor of Japan. The propaganda of the war era, this slogan was used as justification for conquest, bringing the 8 corners of the world under Japanese domination. After World War II, the monument became a peace tower. It is a story behind the stamp. It's a very interesting, very old stamp, but the morale boosting design competition for war stamp selected winning design by Suzuki Senzo, showing Mount Fuji and Hyuga monument, slightly modified by designer Taizo, and the final version issued on 1st October 1942. The view presented the stamp is in point of fact an imaginary one, since Mount Fuji is 800 miles northeast of Hyuga, so they both cannot be seen together. But it's only an artist thing that they both have been brought together on this stamp. Forms a map of Japan and its dependencies. If you see, 1886, Taiwan was upgraded from prefecture to a province. A postal service organized by Governor Lu Mingu-chan, and postage stamps were issued the same year. Under Japanese rule, Taiwanese mail was handled as a part of Japanese postal system. After the surrender of Japan in August 1945, the postal system continued to operate locally, and 21st October 1945, it issued 3-cent, 5-cent stamps, the design consisting of a large number and an imperial chrysanthemum, imperial logo of chrysanthemum. Despite the official transfer of Taiwan Republic of China on 25th October, on 31st, a 10-cent stamp of the same design was issued. Okay, and additional 5 values were printed but never issued. The 10-cent issued for use in Formosa during the occupation of Taiwan by Japan in 1942 as a part of stamps, as a part of Japanese postal system. Now, a Japanese fighter, this aviator saluting, the Japanese fighter planes pilots were great young warriors who were ready to sacrifice even their lives to the nation. You can see the bunch of young warriors photographed down below. At the peak of war, in 1942, this stamp was issued in October 21 by 26 with a watermark, a beautiful picture of a young pilot saluting. To the allies, steeped in the Judeo-Christian tradition of sanctity of life, the apparent willingness of the Japanese servicemen like Haraki to carry out suicide attacks was profoundly shocking. But then, as scholars of kamikaze point out, the word suicide in Japanese does not always have the same immoral connotation that it has in English. The two versions, jikitsu, self-denomination, and jisai, self-judgment, suggest an honorable and laudable act done in public interest. Okay, they are the two versions. And There is, moreover, no ethical or religious taboo in regarding suicide in Japanese traditional religion of Shintoism. Instead, the Japanese samurai warrior code of samurais is called the Bushido, heavily influenced by Shintoism as well as Buddhism and even Confucianism, revered self-sacrifice and fighting to the bitter end for the emperor and country. So that's why you can see the kamikaze pilots diving with their planes into the allied ship. To surrender, on the other hand, was seen as dishonorable, hence the contempt for Japanese felt for prisoners of war. Japanese soldiers believed that when they fall in the field of battlefield, they would become kami or gods. So, to join the nation spirit, the Shinto shrine in the Yasukuni Jinja, which is in Tokyo. That's one of the reasons whenever any Japanese prime minister visits Yasukuni Jinja, the Koreans and the Chinese, even after so many years, try to uh, have some protest. Hence, look at this picture down below. Young school girls. For them, a kamikaze pilot is a great hero. They're all standing and they know very well the zero plane in which they are going. This guy is going to commit suicide. They all wish him well. That's the thing. Hence, a typical farewell from members of Shimpo, Divine One, Special Attack Corps. I will meet you at the Yasukuni Jinja, Yasukuni Shrine, is what they'll say. That means I'm going to die. It'll be an honorable thing. I'll be a spirit waiting for you at the Yasukuni Jinja, is what they'll say. So it's in the central Tokyo, very near our Indian embassy there. Now, women at war, that's a thing. The Asia Pacific War clearly had a great social and psychological impact on the Japanese women. Two types of female factory laborers. One, hide under the Jugojoshi Kinro Yoin, home front home women workers recruitment system, and JUCO. Second is family worker. Now, however, by 1943, the laws of men required that able women work in factories. A women volunteer labor corps was formed. By 1944, more than 4 million women worked in 17 important industrial sectors, such as aircraft manufacturing, ammunition, electrical factories, pharmaceuticals, textiles. In fact, all women were able, and that is unmarried and old enough to leave school at the age of 15, were required to work. Even married women were encouraged to work. Photos from the popular Japanese weekly Shashin Susho, issued by the Japanese Cabinet Bureau of Information during the war, revealed late war propaganda encouraging women to work in the factory position, being trained in the Japanese factories. And this stamp was released, the worker, 1943, January 1st, the new year. And it's a red brown, 21 by 26, with watermarks and the definitive combo 13 by 13 and a half, printed in typography, and one Japanese cent. Then we have the Tori of Yasukuni printed in two colors, 17 and 27. The Yasukuni Jinja is where all the war heroes or people who fell in the war grounds and became kami or gods, their ashes are all kept in Yasukuni shrine. So very honorable, revered place. The Japanese characters for Tori literally translate to bird abode. This is to derive from their resemblance to purchase for bird, the messengers of deities. The Tori Gate, the largest in Japan, was installed in 1921, described in a poem as a great gate that seems to pierce the sky. It served as a notable landmark for visitors. Although it was removed in 1943 due to deterioration, it was rebuilt in 1974 using the latest weather-resistant steel technology, thanks to the veterans and worshippers, with pillars measuring 25 meters in height and 2.5 meters in diameter, the lintel measurement of 34 meters in length and 2.7 meters in diameter, and the weight of 100 tons. It's the tallest and largest torii gate in Japan. It is also able to withstand the earthquake of 7 and the Japan Meteorological Agency seismic intensity scale and wind speeds of 80 meters per second, given expected lifetime of 1,200 years. Then, shipbuilding. During the late 1940s, as a part of post-war efforts to rebuild basic industries, the Japanese government established shipbuilding program to encourage growth in the industry. Huge Korean Naval Yard was where Yamato, the largest battleship ever, was built. That neighborhood was located a major Japanese shipbuilding company. The naval yards of Korea was a part of industrial complex of Japan that has been designated as repatriation to the various claimants against Japan during World War II. National boat carriers, an American company, decided they would like to build tankers in Japan with cheap labor and marvelous facilities. They helped Yawata, the big Japanese steel company, to invest money to produce steel of their quality they required. This is a foundation that later became a major industry of Japan, nearly shipbuilding. This is a 1945 February 2nd stamp, 21 by 26, and that's the stamp that you see. Then relief printing during the wartime. Designs take on wartime look. Stamps issue enter period of confusion with the start of Pacific War. Stamps with wartime look began appearing. Designs depicting the war were sought from the general public. As the war continued, shortage of material labor developed. The quality of paper and glue declined, and most stamps were printed by the relief printing method, which required the labor. The Tokinagawa printing shop was destroyed by fire in an air raid on April 1945, and once again printing stamps were consigned to a private corporation. During this period, extreme confusion. It was difficult to make all stamps uniform, and there were differences in paper and color use. Some stamps did not even have perforations or glue. A simple lithography printing method was reverted during this period. Once a stamp, you can see the stamp, it is there. The variation between the two stamps, the margins that you have, the perforation and without perforation, how the stamps look like. You can see the stamps difference. This is 1945, February 6th. This is made, and then again 21 by 26. Two different type of printing has come during that wartime. And then worker and warplanes. Nakajima Aircraft Company was Japan's first aircraft manufacturer and was founded in 1918 by Chikuhei Nakajima, a naval engineer, and Seibi Kawanishi, a textile manufacturer, as Nihon Ikoki Aircraft. In 1990, the two founders split, and Nakajima bought out Nihon Aircraft Company and tacit help from the Imperial Japanese Army. The company was renamed as Nakajima Aircraft Company in 1919. Shoko, a factory worker, was the backbone of Japan during the Pacific War and post-war recovery. Japan produced a variety of naval, army, and civil aircraft. Japanese Zero was well known for a long-range carrier-based flight aircraft, as was known for its performance. And the thing is the third Showa Series, 1945 to 46. That is the third Showa Series that you can see here. And then Sakura and Mount Fuji, and above clouds, you can see. Sakura is even more pervasive than any other enduring symbol in Mount Fuji. Throughout spring, summer, autumn, Sakura tree grows with little noticeable change above ground. Indeed, 49 weeks of the year, its energy is purposefully channeled into its roots, forcing these deeper and thus ensuring stronger, more resilient tree. Spring brings beautiful sakura in full bloom. Spring winds may blow the blooms away, but sakura tree still gives its soul. The short life and beauty of the blossom, it has been used as a metaphor for mortality and is important symbol of Japanese culture in the passing away and peak of glory, which is foundation of Japanese warriors. The stamp was to inspire the Japanese forces to sacrifice like Sakura and stand high amongst the Japanese like Mount Fuji above the clouds, fighting for the emperor and nation. You can see the earlier Mount Fuji and Sakura stamp, and it's all imperforated, just printed, and they are in block of 4, vertical and horizontal. All the cap cloud of Kasaguma. Kasaguma is the cloud that you see on the around just below the top of Mount Fuji, cloud covering the summit of Mount Fuji. When warm air containing a lot of moisture comes strongly from the windward and upward on the mountain slope, moisture starts to condense to form clouds, and the air temperature drops under the dew point. Type of clouds such as banner cloud, which looks like floating flags extending from middle to the top of the mountain, and the band cloud, which resembles belt going around the middle of the mountain, can also be observed in Mount Fuji. We must not forget that clouds are also an important factor to consider the beautiful scenery of Mount Fuji, and Sakura below adds beauty, and Mount Fuji is seen more beautifully without much of clouds during winter, and summer is the time you may get a lot of clouds covering the peak of Mount Fuji. And these are the stamps that were released 1945 and also 1944, October, and then also in March 8th, the stamps of different face values were issued on this thing. The details are given here. And then Isukushima Tori. Isukushima is an island known as Miyajima, considered sacred since down the history. Many believe shrine is first constructed in AD 593, although earliest record of the shrine in this location is AD 811. Devoted to 3 female deities of marine safety, Isukushima shrine maintained only of regional significance until Taira no Kiyomori, one of the most powerful noblemen of 12th century, reconstructed it and made it into prominent one in the national level. And then the Tori, recognizable to anyone who visits Japan, and red wooden shrine gates that vary from tiny miniatures on street corners. Tori marks the entrance to Shinto shrines and also marks the sacred line beyond which the temple line, sacred lines are there. The Shinto and divided by the sacred from the ordinary and the world of humans from the realm of gods. And although it may look as though it does, Isukushima Tori does not actually float on the water. The gate is built on 4 50-foot tall, 15-meter pillars that stand on a shallow, muddy tide pools. Old shrine is built on a dock resting just above the sea, and it was first constructed nearly 1,500 years ago. It's a ring and falling tides at consequent water level that makes the Tori to look like floating, and it divides the residents of ocean deities from the ordinary. The Tori is a dividing line. Then coal mining. 1930 to 1940, and the Japanese coal industry experienced huge fluctuations in production labor productivity. In the early stage of the war, many low productive mines entered into the industry, which reduced average labor productivity considerably. The Government and Coal Control Association implemented a policy to concentrate resources and produce an efficient mines during the war, which curbed the decline in average labor productivity. Despite the deteriorating environment during the war, coal production in Japan was maintained fairly well. One of the factors that made it possible was the policy of resource reallocation, and coal was also very important for them to produce steel. The year 1940 was a turning point, not only for the whole Japanese war economy, but also for the coal industry. In September 1940, the diplomatic conflict with the US reached a decisive point. because Japan's invasion of northern Indochina and its military alliance with Germany and Italy. The US responded by placing an embargo on the steel scrap trade with Japan, which had a serious impact on Japan's munitions productions. And in order to cope up with this change and prepare for the war with the US expected to, which will happen in near future, the Japanese government tried to strengthen the system of war economy. One of the key reform measures, the Torii at Yasukuni Jinja. The origins of Yasukuni Jinja lie in the shrine called Shokonsha, which was established on June 29, 1869, by the will of the Emperor Meiji. In 1879, it was renamed Yasukuni Jinja, the name it still bears today. Yasukuni Jinja was established to commemorate the honor achievements of those who dedicated their precious lives for the country. The name Yasukuni, bestowed by Emperor Meiji, means to preserve peace for the entire nation. The Nishiki flag was designated as a national flag with Act on National Flag and Anthem, which promulgated and became effective on 13th August 1999. Two promulgations issued 1870 by Dojo Khan, the government body of early Meiji period, each had a provision for design of a national flag. Now, looking at the stamp, there is Sakura at the bottom. So like Sakura, life itself can be beautiful and remarkable, yet it is delicate, impermanent, and short, and simply that is the nature of things. Sakura reminds us how beautiful life can be, and it also reminds us to appreciate what we have, including each moment we experience. For some people, Sakura are just beautiful, short-lived gift from nature. For others, they remind us each spring that life is precious and short, must not be wasted. Sakura has taught Japanese, after being the cause of happiness for others, pass away in the peak of glory. This stamp, showing the Japanese fighter flying above the sea with the sun on the rise, in the process of rising above the horizon on July 1st, 1945. Japan was confident after successful surprise attack on USA naval forces on December 7, 1941 at Pearl Harbor. They were developing strategies for victory against Allied forces, and this bright, positive-looking stamp was released on July 1st, 1945. However, USA, after the failure of the Potsdam negotiations, failed on July 25, 1945. A decision was taken by the Allies, led by USA, to drop the atom bomb on Japan on August 6, 1945, and 9th August 1945. The two bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man, they were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it's very sad that just happened after just 25 days after these very bright stamps are released. Thank you all for joining us today. See you again next week. Thank you. Thank you very much.